Hi, this is Regina Y. Favors with Pre-Singles Counseling. This is part of my Pre-Singles Counseling coaching curriculum where I design lessons and case studies based in the psychology literature on different topics. This Pre-Singles Counseling is targeted to three types of individuals. The first individual is a person who is interested in becoming single. That means that person is not necessarily interested in dating or entering the marriage market. The second individual is a single individual who is interested in entering the dating market. And then the last individual is a single dating individual who is interested in marriage. So take some time to listen to this lesson and or case study. Please leave a comment and I will reply. In addition, please consider subscribing to the channel. Hit the notification bell if you are interested in further topics. This is Pre-Singles Counseling, a Pre-Singles Counseling coaching curriculum. Thank you for visiting the channel. This lesson is subject to fair use, where I will comment, criticize, offer research, as well as teach and provide scholarship. By the end of this lesson, students will be able to do the following: define dating values, analyze 3 case studies on various topics, define mate preferences, write a sample narrative, and then analyze the sample narrative applying various topics discussed. Single women should be knowledgeable about dating values and how women are perceived in the mating marketplace. Women, based on physical attractiveness, may fall under one or more ranking categories. Single women with a self-perceived mate value might be surprised to discover that their mate value is lower than expected. And this is based on the decisions they make in a relationship and the decisions that are made for them in the same relationship. A single woman may perceive herself as high value, but she may be considered low value to a high value man. Mate value is relative to mate preference. Mate value predicts mate retention. What is pre-singles counseling? Pre-singles counseling is based in a decision to enter or exit singleness. Pre-singles is the time period between single and contemplation of dating. There is a difference between being a single individual and being a single individual who has entered the dating market, which includes the sex market. Pre-singles counseling is the processes by which an individual researches, learns, and plans to navigate life either as a single, a dating single, or a single interested in marriage. So here are some pre-discussion questions. Why do men rank women? What does a 9-10 suggest for men? What does a 7-8 suggest for men? And then what does a 5-6 suggest for men? Do all women perceive themselves higher than 5-6? Why do dating values matter? So usually a ranking of 1 to 10. And I did this sort of half. Some might believe the individual is a 9, and some might believe the individual is a 10. But most women would never consider themselves a 5 or 6. They at least may not believe that they are 9 or 10s, but they definitely might believe that they are 7s or 8s, preferably 8 to 9. So these are some pre-discussion questions that I want you to consider as you listen to this lecture. So this lecture is organized and guided by 3 narratives. So there are 3 narratives that we're going to go over. The first one is the sudden breakup narrative. The second one is the rebounding narrative. And then, of course, which is always a popular topic, the cheating narrative. The lecture begins with exploration and social perception of dating values. So let's look at dating values. What does 9, 10, 7, 8, and 5, 6 suggest for men and women? So dating value is defined based upon three categories. So there's high interest, low interest, no interest. You may also refer to dating values as high, average, low average, right? Potential dating partners use a standard ranking system in descending order. So 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 1, 4, 3, 2, 1. But I've often heard men say that she looks like a 9, but if she work on herself, she could pull herself up to a 10, or the same for 7 or 8. And sometimes they are not that kind when it comes to a 5 or 6. They won't even consider the woman to be capable of improving herself enough to even move up to 78. But in their minds, she would never be a 10, because a dime piece is a dime piece regardless, according to some men. Dating may be short term or long term, and it is predicted based upon overall mating value of a potential partner. So people date, and they determine how long they're going to date. But if the partner is a high value female status partner, it is likely that that male is going to continue dating her over other women. Dating value predicts mate switching. So if you are 5, 6, in terms of social perception and the perception of that romantic partner, it is automatic that you will be replaced and or abandoned as a mate. So your dating value does predict mate switching. Dating value also predicts the cultivation of backup mates. So if there is an incident where you could be replaced, most men will not replace you until they know that they have already someone else that they have been cultivating, building, developing a relationship with that person. And once they know that that relationship is going to be a good relationship to continue, they may go on ahead and just completely switch and replace and drop you altogether. I also understand men to be the types of people that they will still hold you at arm's length. You just might become a member of, say, a dating rotation if your dating value is very low. Of course, if they get married to that person that is higher, who has a higher dating value, then you are likely a person that they would have to just completely abandon. A backup mate may be a member of the partner's rotation. So let's look at the initial perception of dating value. So usually 9, 10s are high interest, 7, 8s are low interest. So with the 9, 10, someone perceived as high interest has a higher mate value and therefore is important to retain or for mate retention. And you notice in many of my audios, I always talk about mate retention behaviors, benefit provisioning, or cost inflicting, right? So if the person is high interest, if a man has high interest in a woman who reflects a 9-10, he is going to want to retain that mate, and he will allocate every effort possible to retain that mate. The low interest mate, someone perceived as low interest, has a lower mate value. They may just end up filling a role in a dating rotation. So they have some kind of value even to be part of a dating rotation, but they don't have enough value to marry, consider for marriage or consider long term. So we looked at the 7, 8 already. So then the 5, 6 in contrast would be no interest at all. So someone perceived as no interest has either a low mate value or no real dating value. They can essentially be tossed at will. When men consider a woman of no interest, it is usually it usually has something to do with physical attractiveness. So the person is just not physically attractive, um, either for the dating market, the mating market, the sex market, or the marriage market for a certain type of man. She may be of interest for someone else, but for a particular type of man who is looking for a 9-10 and who will tolerate a 7-8, the 5-6 is basically average. And so, or actually below average. And so she can be tossed at will, even though men will still use her for sex. They will still use her to fulfill other roles in his life. He might get money from her. He might get other types of companionship. She just might become a friend. But he will definitely get sex, because a man he doesn't have a problem with having sex even with an average woman. So here's the male view of dating. So again, 9-10 is high interest, 7-8 is low interest. So under the high interest, a man believes he will find relationship satisfaction with a high interest woman. His perception is based upon how he views himself as high value. So they basically, in his eyes, mirror each other. So if he considers himself high value, he's only going to choose women who reflect high value. If a high value woman gives him choosing signals, then in his mind, he automatically believes he's high value. So it would be hard. You would be hard pressed to tell him different. Low interest, a man believes that this mate is replaceable. Relationship satisfaction is based upon success and role fulfillment. The man believes he is higher value, so he is more likely to abandon or emotionally evict the person out of the relationship. So we've looked at the 7-8 already. So let's look at the 5-6, no interest. A man believes that this mate does not possess the qualities necessary for relationship satisfaction at any season. Life would be boring with no sexual variety, and there's no certainty. So the 5-6 is either average or too average to be competitive, for one. And that person is usually a person who works, probably a good woman, quote unquote good woman, good personality, but she does not have enough mate value in order for him to have relationship satisfaction. Now, this could be a preconceived ideal of the male view, and also it could be his unwillingness to see different. We are all socialized to believe that the global beauty standard is higher than any other standard, right? So the white woman, blonde, blue-eyed, skinny like a Barbie doll, she reflects the global beauty standard. And so anyone who is not her, or does not share her skin tone, or does not have her blue eyes, immediately becomes a 7-8. Just immediately. It doesn't matter if it's a black woman and she is gorgeous. She's Miss America, Miss USA, like a Kenya Moore, just completely beautiful. It doesn't matter, because the global beauty standard is still the white woman. So anyone else becomes a 7-8. And then that includes a light-skinned black woman. And then anyone who does not share that same skin tone immediately becomes a 5-6. There's no real interest there. Because even if a person married the 5-6, it's only so long that they will stay with that person until the 7-8 or the 9-10 comes along. And then they will emotionally will basically toss the 5-6 at will. Female view of dating value. So let's look at 9-10 as high interest and 7-8 as low interest. So a woman believes she will find relationship satisfaction when there is consistent benefit provisioning and access to material resources from a high value man. Benefits must outweigh costs. Replaceability of men is dependent upon accruing benefits. So women don't always look at physical attractiveness as a major major prerequisite for determining whether the man is high value or not. We still go after a physically attractive man, but that's not necessarily. You could have a physically attractive man who is broke, who has no money, who keeps no job, who jumps from job to job, who hasn't had a job in years, right? Who can't keep his own place. Okay, that's not attractive. Whether he is physically attractive or not, he doesn't have the social appeal, the financial appeal to be stable. He's not a stable individual. Now, women would still have sex with that person because he bears, good genes, and maybe, the woman wants their child to look like that man, but he doesn't have, he cannot provide consistent benefit provisioning. He has no access to sustainable material resources. So therefore, he is considered, regardless of his physical attractiveness, as a lower value man. In addition, that any woman that who chooses to pursue a man with access to financial resources, that man has to also be able to sustain that accruing benefits, right? That's what that basically means, that he's not stagnant in his wealth building, right? That he continues to add to his portfolio. He's growing. So the 7-8 low interest, a woman believes she will find less relationship satisfaction when the man engages in cost-inflicting behaviors to maintain the relationship. Costs outweigh the benefits. Commitment to infidelity might form the relationship. So when you're dealing with a man who is lower in mate value, but you may be a little higher in mate value, that man is most likely to use cost-inflicting mate retention behaviors to keep you in the relationship. So that's going to be sexual jealousy. That's going to be partner-directed insults. That's going to be, monopolizing your time, keeping you from friends and family. So the cost of being in a relationship with a low-interest mate are going to outweigh the benefits. Then that mate also might use infidelity as a way to sort of shepherd the relationship. He commits an act, and then you catch him, and then he says, okay, I'm sorry, I won't do it anymore, and then you take him back. Well, that becomes a cycle after a while until you realize that he's actually not going to change. So for a woman, if she will find less relationship satisfaction with a particular male partner who uses cost-inflicting mate retention behaviors. So we have examined the 7-8 low interest. Let's look at 5-6 no interest. A woman believes she will find no relationship satisfaction with the man she has no interest in. The woman may desire attention from the man but will withhold sex. Replacement is evident. No interest is an indicator of dating down or using the man as a rebound. So we know these cases where maybe the 9, 10, or 7-8 is not coming around and is acting up and can't leave his ex alone or something, and she goes out looking for a rebound, a person that she can use. And usually women begin searching among their friends, someone that they might be able to use. And men do the same as well. But the goal for her, I always think that a woman is more cognizant of her goal to seek out a rebound than a man. I think men, when they struggle with a relationship breakup, they go to the club and they just find somebody. I don't think they always think that person is going to become a long-term partner or rebound or something like that. It may be considered rebound sex, but it's not necessarily. He's not thinking in his mind, I'm going to go and find a rebound. It just ends up that way. somehow the relationship he had with the one night stand sort of converts to a rebound relationship, even though the woman might think that it is actually a real relationship. However, I think women are much more aware, consciously aware of what they're doing. That I believe, like, they create a grocery store list, right, to go get items out of the grocery store. I think they seek out a rebound when they've been hurt by a previous partner, and I think they actually know that it is a rebound, even if they don't have the language at the time. So dating interest changes to mate value. So that scale from 1 to 10 immediately converts once the man sort of hones in on the mate that he wants. So that high interest, low interest, no interest begins to change when that mate actually reflects a person who especially is a 9 or 10. Dating interest may be short term, but it might lead to long term relationship development. So it depends. So if it's a higher status mate, higher status woman, higher mate value woman, then he's going to allocate every effort to make sure that it converts into relationship development. Because with certain men, they don't think, even though they have the ego to believe that they can attract any 9 or 10, but when a 9 or 10 comes along, they know they have to immediately put all of their efforts into ensuring that they retain that mate. It's like the person who, I guess, wide receiver or running back, when they're running down the field, they have to make sure that once they get that ball in their hand, they maintain a hard clutch on it until they get to the goal line, because they want to make sure that they win. And so if they just so happen to get a 9-10 and lose her, then that means they feel like a loser, and then they have to get right back into the game and compete again and try to get that 9 or 10. The desire for long-term relationship cultivating reflects the belief that the potential partner has some value, whether high or low. So even with the dating rotation, that the man might assign the 7-8 or 5-6 to a member of his dating rotation, there must be some value in the person. Now, it's not going to be necessarily high value, but it is some value in the person, that he believes that he could still keep that person around. Doesn't mean that he's going to commit. Doesn't mean that he's going to treat the person right. It just means that there's some kind of value. I mean, she's not a 1. She's not a 2, right? She's not a 3 or a 4. So there must be some value. The desire to mate long-term with a potential partner also suggests that the person initiating the relationship believes that he or she has high mate value. It suggests much about mate preference and mate retention efforts, and if there is a tendency to exit the relationship and remate with an alternative mate. So once a man gets a 9-10, he's not looking to actually remate with someone else, unless, and there's always an exception to the rule, unless he has a particular type of issue. It could be a sex addiction issue. It can be it's an insecurity issue, that he always bed hops. You know, he can't be stable. That might be attributed to any part of his background where there was anxiety or chaos or drama or something like that. Other than that, once he feels like he gets a high mate value in a woman, he is less likely to cultivate a backup mate. So mate value, what does the psychology literature suggest about mate value, mate preferences, mate retention, and mate switching? So mate value defined, and I always define mate value in all of my audio, so you might see some familiar references. Mate value is defined as the overall desirability of someone to a pool of potential mates. Desirability reflects one's own mate value as well. So there is, again, this, contrast between self-perception self-perception, how you define your own mate value as well as your desirability, and then contrast it with social perception, how you are perceived by a pool of potential mates, as well as how desirable you are to those individuals as well. One's own mate value indicates attractiveness as a potential mate on the mating market. Again, mate value always predicts mate retention. So how high you are will determine how long a man retains you as a mate. Factors associated with mate value. So we're going to discuss mate preferences, mate retention, mate switching. So mate preferences defined. Mate preferences are defined based upon the following. So there's a preference for short-term sexual partners. Those are the partners, say there's an immediate breakup and a person goes out and looks for a one-night stand, right? It could also be friends with benefits. So these are really short-term sexual partners. There's a preference for casual dating partners, right? Casual dating, it's hard to really define casual dating because if you're casually dating, I guess you are dating different people, not necessarily the one person. Because once you start dating the one person, I don't really consider that casual dating. But I guess casual dating might be that there is no firm commitment. You still might be, of course, sexual partners, but you're not really looking to go beyond just the dating. I mean, the person might call you for if you are a wealthy man, right, and you need a escort, and I'm not talking about in a sexual way, but just a person to go to an office party with you or something like that. That's the way I sort of think of it. Preference for long-term romantic partners. So you do have people who stay in these long-term romantic relationships. They never marry. They might even live together, but they go on for years. Preference for physical attractiveness and short-term partners. So even if you're just not the dating kind, or you're just not the marrying kind, you still want a physically attractive partner. If you are a celebrity and you want to attend an awards show, especially a man, you want someone to look good on your arm. So, and that's a short-term situation. You're not really dating. You might be having sex or something like that, but you know that it's one of those situations that is actually just an arrangement, right? Preference for ambition and attractiveness and long-term partners. So, it depends on the man. I've heard many men say, especially black men, who actually believe that they are high status, high value alpha males, that they don't care about a black woman's ambition or degrees or any of her accomplishments. And to me, that basically speaks to their own insecurity, because they probably don't have that. They don't care about her money. But I've noticed that non-black men, white, Asian, whoever, they tend to care about those things. They tend to care about education and money, earning potential, status, value, right? I think they actually care about that. Now, do they still want to have a woman at home cooking and cleaning and ironing and still, fulfilling wifely duties and still feminine? Sure, of course. All men, especially men, want still a feminine woman. But preference for ambition and attractiveness and long-term partners, it just really depends on the male and what he deems as important. Of course, the folks who say they don't care about somebody's money will say differently when it's time for the mortgage and the electricity and the car payments and everything else, health insurance, right? Any other types of insurance. Preference for restricted sociosexual orientation. So the person who needs a little bit more time before they have sex, right? They want to date or have conversation. And then preference for unrestricted sociosexual orientation, that person who doesn't need a lot of time to have sex. And these last two I'm going to discuss now. So then, as they are separated, so for restricted, mate preference is based upon an individual requiring more time in relationships before having sex. The individual is less likely to enjoy casual, non-committed sex. So this type of person, doesn't want the process of dating a lot of people and having a lot of partners every year. You sit up here and date 10 people and maybe sleep with 3 to 5 partners. That's, and then you do this for 5 years. That's a lot of that's a heavy body count. And so most people want to be able to have some kind of relationship before they decide to have sex. And then you have other people in the sex market who just want to have sex, period. They don't really need the commitment, do what we need to do, and then maybe hook up again later, but not all of this, relationship type thinking. Mate preference is based upon an individual requiring less time in relationships before having sex. So this is under unrestricted. The individual is more comfortable with engaging in sex without love or commitment. So this person, these people go around just having sex. I'm not saying that they are like robots or anything like that, but it's the lifestyle that they care about. They're not looking for commitment, and they can go on for years like this. It can be years for them, but they don't necessarily care about the love or the commitment. And this is their mate preference. Mate preferences are predicated on the following as well. So the ideal mates that exist in a local environment. So you have to determine the local environment. It can be your job. It can be at an office party. It can be at a club. It could be one of those, conferences you attend every year. But there has to be there has to exist an ideal mate for you to prefer an ideal mate, and they have to be accessible. Also, they must be available, so they can't be attached to someone else, like married, right? A person who is married is not your boyfriend, despite how many times open relationships are considered a new thing, a new tradition, a trendy topic. The courts and the state laws say different. So that if you ever wanted to marry that person would have to go through the courts to get a divorce, and that person would have to divide the assets or whatever. So I would pick someone who is actually available. And then ideal mates that are reciprocally attracted to the mates who choose them. So there's always this assumption that 9s and 10s work well together, 7s and 8s work well together, 5s and 6 work well together, and anything under 5 work well together. And so there has to be some sort of reciprocal attraction. So the male who is high status has to like the woman who is high status, and the woman who is high status has to like the male who is high status. So mate preferences for men are predicated on the following. So men prefer to mate younger, more attractive women. They are more likely to perform less cost-inflicting behaviors because the woman is high status, high value. Men will allocate effort to mate retention for women of higher mate value. So again, the global beauty standard, they will always do whatever they have to do to make sure that they retain that mate. And that's usually black men to white women. When it comes to white men, it depends on what type of white woman she is. So if she comes from a name, a brand, she's, the daughter of an NFL owner, basketball team owner or something like that, she's automatically higher mate value. And it really doesn't matter what her physical attractiveness is. The fact that she has access to those types of, financial resources and networks, then she is just immediately a higher mate value. Men of higher mate value prefer to perform lower benefit provisioning because they have the resources to perform them. So there's really no anxiety about it. It's just automatic that that higher mate value woman is going to be able to receive benefit provisioning, because it's less likely that she's going to marry a lower mate value man. Mate preferences for men are predicated on the following. So men of lower mate value prefer to use cost-inflicting behaviors to prevent partner infidelity because they do not possess benefit provisioning. So the less they possess, the more they inflict, right? The less they possess in terms of, financial resources and access to networks, the more they tend to inflict. Sometimes it's unconscious, sometimes unconscious because due to some sort of insecurity and ego issue. And then some things are very conscious, that they are absolutely trying to pick at you, mess with your self-esteem, project what they're feeling onto you. Men of lower mate value perform higher risk, cost-inflicting retention behaviors more than men of higher mate value, which means they often use sexual jealousy and or partner-directed insults. Now, again, it just depends on the woman, because if a higher mate value woman marries a lower value man, he's going to be very careful about what he says to her, depending upon her access to a network, to a father who is still alive, right? Especially if he needs a job at the company or something like that. So he may be very careful, but others might still inflict some sort of partner-directed insult in little ways, grooming the individual, because abusers are very good at grooming you. So they often will throw water on your mirror so that it gives you a distorted vision of yourself, right? They will sort of say and do things that affect your self-esteem. So when they are of lower mate value, they tend to use more cost-inflicting retention behaviors. Mate preferences for women. So mate preferences for women are predicated on the following. Women date men with resources. They often prefer that they provide resources in long-term partnerships. No woman wants to marry a poor man. As much as she loves him, she's always going to do all that she can to try to get him to earn more. Women prefer men to be physically attractive. This is a contributor for women making short-term mating decisions. Women prefer physical attractiveness in short-term sexual partnerships. But when it comes to longer-term, physical attractive may not necessarily matter. I'm not saying they're just going to marry anybody, but it is when they are considering the long-term partnership aspect of the relationship, their mate preference is always access to sustainable financial resources. Women date men with status. So status is a predeterminant for accepting a man. Status will compensate for mate low attractiveness. So when they don't have the money, when they don't have the looks, but they have the money, that's enough for women. Mate retention for men. So mate retention for men is predicated on the following. So men will thwart partner defection by using sexual jealousy, monopolizing their partner's time, and decreasing and reducing the partner's social support system. So you often see men who tend to be abusers sort of cut their partner off from family and friends. They tend to be overly possessive. Most men are already possessive, but abusers tend to be overly possessive, often pulling at the person's arm, shoving them, throwing them in the car, throwing them in the house, throwing them to the floor, anything to sort of keep that female partner in line. So this happens when a man feels he is of lower mate value in contrast to the high value partner. Men will perform an increased benefit provisioning and access to material resources for the woman. So that's important. That sustainable wealth. Men will increase when they perceive their partner as having higher mate value, which includes providing them with gifts, compliments, and sustained access to finances. Mate retention for women. So a woman will retain a mate based upon her status within a group. A woman is retained as a mate based upon her ability to ascend in status through her own deeds or by association. She could acquire new skills, knowledge, abilities to raise her status. So if you're just an average woman that you didn't have much more than what you had before you got married to your partner, but then you developed a side hustle and now you are selling, jewelry at the swap meet and actually making some real money off of it and could potentially advance it commercially. Okay, well, your mate status is improving. If you remember the Wolf of Wall Street film with Leonardo DiCaprio, and the character that he played, Jordan Belfort, was married first before he left his wife to marry Margot Robbie's character. Well, as he was moving up, in his field and in his industry, the wife didn't really change her looks, and she really didn't acquire any new skills or knowledge or abilities. She didn't even really change her hairstyle. She didn't change her dress. She was just the same person he met prior to becoming, rich and famous. So then he went looking for somebody else to cultivate as a backup mate who later became a wife. And it's important. I've heard both men and women say that as your man goes up the ladder, you need to improve your own look. You need to improve yourself. And the woman that he did leave her for, Margot Robbie's character, she was talking about her little business that she had. She has some kind of ambition. And even though you have high status men who would rather the woman still be at home and be a wife and feminine, it's something about the little ambition that you have that they might be able to help you with and mentoring you, that they kind of care about. Because the previous wife, she didn't change. She looked exactly the same. She wore her jeans, her hair, her leather jacket, right? And she didn't, develop any type of side hustle or something like that, right? And so she didn't acquire, so her mate value remained the same. A woman may abandon a current mate for a higher value man who becomes available, who presents benefit accruing opportunities, and who uses less cost inflicting mate retention behavior. So I can't remember if Margot Robbie's character ended up trying to find a new man after her husband was about to be sent to jail in that movie, but when he basically could no longer produce benefit accruing opportunities, she began cultivating sort of like a backup plan. And now if that later included a man, okay, it later included a man, but she basically started to do that because his mate status, his mate value was lowering, which now affected her mate status, her mate value. And to ensure that she can still ride that very high wave, she was creating her own exit plan. So mate switching defined. So mate switching is a short-term mating strategy. Breaking up with one partner and remating with another is an example of mate switching. It is considered a walk-away strategy used to resolve costly cooperative partners. And then examples of short mating include sexual affairs, one-night stands, low commitment relationships. I venture to say that short-term mating might also include rebounding as well, right? Especially if you just broke up with someone. But the literature, the psychology literature, focuses on sexual affairs, one-night stands, and low-commitment relationships. Mate switching for men. So usually when men mate switch, they usually have multiple extra pair partners. Men who mate switch list sex as a primary reason for having an affair, and men who mate switch rarely fall in love with their extra pair partner. So I'm not a man. I can't really understand why men feel like they have to cultivate backup partners. I do understand that they might get sexually bored. They kind of remind me of cats. You know, like you have to dangle something in front of a cat to keep the cat from getting bored, or to keep the cat from getting restless, right? If you don't, the cat will start tearing up the house. Not necessarily like a dog, but they get very agitated. Dogs, you may have to keep them entertained by going outside, throwing a frisbee or something like that. But they're not really like cats in my understanding. But cultivating all these backup partners and wearing your body down, I just really don't understand why that is so important for men. That I think they tend to focus on the activity aspect of it versus the productivity aspect. They think about quantity over quality, and they often forget that they're going to get old. I believe they start to feel changes as early in their 40s, and then of course 50s and 60s and 70s and 80s. And so all of this mate switching, engaging in extra pair affairs, there are consequences to that in the end. Mate switching for women. Usually women who mate switch use it as a function of short-term mating. They often want to secure good genes from an affair partner, and they will mate switch to secure investment from a regular partner. Now, I haven't really been in the game to understand why women mate switch. I don't date, and so I've never had to secure good genes, but I do understand securing investment from a regular partner, that you don't want to marry someone who is poor, who doesn't have anything, who doesn't have something. You may not necessarily need someone to be ambitious, but you do want somebody who can keep a job, right? That you both can take care of each other financially. So that might be what investment means for you. However, as you go up the levels, up there to higher status, elite status, etc., you do want a male partner who can meet the demands of securing investments, right? Of sustainable finances. They are very careful about how they invest their money. You don't want to look up one day and the house is foreclosed. That's embarrassing and it's hurtful, because then you will become homeless. Mate switching for women also. Women who mate switch track their partner's mate value and use the information to invest into or disinvest from the relationship. And women who mate switch cite inadequate economic support as a reason for divorce. So one of the major reasons why people divorce has a lot to do with finances. And a lot of times we marry someone believing that they have what they say they have. And when they don't have what they say they don't have, you have women who are very bold who will leave that partner. So that means they never really loved them. But, that doesn't matter. If you said you have finances and you don't, you basically lied. So then you married under false pretenses, and all the woman is doing in this moment is just resolving that immediate issue. So knowledge check. What is mate switching? Why do men and women mate switch? What is mate retention? What are the 2 examples of mate retention behaviors? What is mate preference? Why do men and women prefer higher mate value partners? So let's look at the relationship scenarios. So how does mate value, mate preference, mate retention, and mate switching apply based upon high interest, low interest, and no interest qualifiers? So here's our very first scenario, the sudden breakup narrative. Does refusal to take a partner back reflect high value? So here is the narrative. Brittany met Joshua, her first boyfriend, in high school. She was enamored with him from the very first day she saw him in economics class. She had another class with him. He never approached her, but she positioned herself around him in class. They somehow found themselves together and in a non-sexual relationship. They never used the words boyfriend or girlfriend, but each made a point of being a fully committed member in the relationship. They did relationship things, which included kissing and becoming almost intimate at times. Joshua wanted sex, but he never voiced this concern. Brittany was a virgin, but she didn't voice concern over sex. Suddenly, Joshua broke up with Brittany. Then a week later, Joshua appealed to Brittany to return to the relationship. Brittany refused to take Joshua back. So which one has high value? Does Brittany's refusal to take Joshua back reflect her high value? Or does Joshua's sudden decision to break up with Brittany reflect his high value? So let's look at a pre-analysis first before we get into the analysis of this narrative. So Brittany's refusal to take Joshua back is beside the point. The fact that Joshua never claimed Brittany reflects his high value. He never sent her choosing signals, nor did he approach her directly. Brittany exhibited high interest, but Joshua exhibited no interest initially, though. Brittany positioning herself around Joshua reflects her low value. She saw in Joshua something that might raise her mate value and mate potential. She indirectly pursued him. So let's look at the 9, 10, and the 7, 8. So in terms of high mate value, because Joshua left the relationship with Brittany, suddenly Joshua is a 9, 10. Because he's the one who made the decision to leave, not Brittany. Low mate value, because Joshua never initially claimed Brittany by using claiming language, but was a participating member in the relationship after it formed. Brittany is a 7, 8. Okay, we have an understanding of 7, 8. So let's look at 5, 6. No mate value, because Brittany positioned herself around Joshua to receive mate value. She is a 5, 6. So her 5, 6, just positioning herself around him, made her a 7, 8. But because he didn't necessarily choose her directly, she can't be a 9, 10. So there is no indication in the scenario that Joshua exited the relationship with Brittany to secure an alternative mate or to replace Brittany overall. There is no factual evidence from Joshua to Brittany, therefore mate switching may not apply in this context. However, the fact that Joshua exited suggests that Joshua's mate preference changed, or that Brittany never served as a mate preference. Abandonment might apply. It is more likely that Joshua never preferred Brittany, because if she was a 9, 10, he would have approached her himself, so that she was automatically then a 5, 6 if she had to position herself around him to increase in mate value to a 7, 8. So, and whether she was 5, 6, 7, 8, she was not his preference, because there is nothing on his end that basically suggests that she was a preference for him. While in the relationship, mate retention was a goal for Joshua up to the sudden
to the sudden breakup. Men will allocate effort to mate retention in part according to the mate value of their partner. So she did become a 7/8 as a result of being connected to him. Men are less likely to exit the relationship for fear of finding another partner poor in fit. So if he was willing to exit that relationship, then it is likely we could assume that he had found someone, or an ex came back and he wanted to have that opportunity with the ex, and then realized that the ex was not going to stay, and then tried to return to Brittany. Brittany and Joshua committed to relationship building activities, going to the movies, kissing, talking on the phone, and visiting with each other in a non-sexual context. Joshua's desire to return to the relationship with Brittany suggests that he believes she had value, whether high or low, because if she was just a 5 or 6, then he likely would not have even pursued her and would not have given her even a second look. Joshua's desire to return might suggest something about the belief in his having high value, because if they get to choose whether or not they want to be with you, so that reflects their ego, of course, and then that reflects their high value. Joshua's desire to return might further suggest high interest and commitment to Brittany. This suggests Brittany's higher mate value in the mating market, not necessarily higher than 9-10, but higher than 5-6. It is important that a person chooses his or her mate. Positioning yourself around a potential mate is not enough to create a claiming opportunity. It could serve as part of developing some dating interest, but it cannot support the development of mate value. A relationship partner should identify or claim you as a boyfriend, girlfriend, lover, etc. Lastly, understand your own mate value. No one should ever rely on another person's ranking to increase in mate value. So a lot of times when we position ourselves around certain people, we are basically relying on their mate value, their high mate value, to sort of help us make the cut, in a sense, right? But only you can increase your own mate value. So if you feel like you're a 5-6 and you want to do self-improvement to at least get to a 7 and 8, you can do that. Sometimes it's hard to move from a 7-8 to a 9-10 if you don't already have that energy. I'm not saying people should not try, but there are some people in the world who are just simply beautiful, and they are. Now, I'm not saying they have a good attitude. It is rare that a lot of beautiful women have bad attitudes too. You might find some that are kind of entitled, and but I haven't really come across a lot of 9s and 10s who are nasty in their attitude. If anything, it's the 7s and 8s who tend to be nasty to the 9s and 10s, and then that makes the 9s and 10s sort of respond in kind. So here is a writing task I want you to think about in terms of determining your ranking and how you basically see yourself. So consider a similar relationship you might have had when a romantic partner suddenly broke things off with you without any reason and then decided to return to the relationship. Write this as a sample case study. You can use your name or create the characters for your case study. Include names, timelines, activities, and the perception of what happened for the woman. Then create a pre-analysis discussion using the dating values discussed in this lecture. So 9, 10, 7, 8, 5, 6, high interest, low interest, no interest. Then determine where you might fit based on that relationship. All right, scenario number 2, rebounding narrative. So does rebounding reflect high or low value? And that's an interesting question, but the person who is choosing you as a rebound is choosing you from a place of ego and perception, and they're trying to prove to themselves that they still got it, or they are still worthy partners, or that the fact that they could secure you, whether you are high or low, tells them that they weren't all that bad in their previous relationship. So the fact that they can make a decision, even if they are dating down and using you as a rebound, does it reflect their high or low value? So here is your narrative. Keith met Samantha through a family friend. After a few months of speaking on the phone, they met in person. Their first encounter was awkward. Keith kept a distance between Samantha and himself, but Keith sent choosing signals that moved Samantha into more than just the friend zone. Keith began semi-dating Samantha, taking her out for dinner, going to the movies, visiting with his family, and inviting Samantha to travel with him out of town. 3 months into the relationship, Keith pulled back. He told Samantha that they should just be friends. One day, Keith invites Samantha to his apartment. When she arrives, another woman is sitting on the couch. Keith introduces the woman as a friend. Keith invites Samantha to attend a restaurant with the woman and himself. They all walk out to Keith's car, and he opens the door for the woman. The woman gets into the front seat. Samantha gets into the back seat. Keith drives off. So which one has high value in terms of rebounding? Does Keith believe that Samantha has high value? Does Keith believe that the woman has high value? Which of the two, Samantha or the woman, is the rebound woman? So here's our pre-analysis. It is possible that Samantha is the rebound in this narrative. Although the narrative reads as if Keith seeks the woman after Samantha, and we do not know the reason why Keith is seeking another woman, it is the woman who is sitting in the front seat of the car we should consider regarding mate value. Keith opens the door for the woman, but we do not read that Keith has opened the door for Samantha. Keith does not use claiming language with Samantha. He does not call her girlfriend. The more that Keith does with the woman in positioning her at the house for Samantha to see, in inviting Samantha to the restaurant with them but not engaging her as if she has more value than the woman, and in simply putting the woman in the front seat, suggests that the woman has high value. If the woman was a rebound, then Keith would not have placed her in the front seat. He would not have given her a place of honor. And how and where a romantic partner places you is important. And we all know, we've seen YouTube videos, Facebook, type videos of a girlfriend of a man with his mother in the front seat, and the girlfriend getting mad that the mother is in the front seat. Now, mothers and aunts and elders, I don't have a problem with them being in the front seat, because it's just a sign of respect, right? I would have a problem with my current boyfriend's ex being in the front seat and he didn't say anything. To say, for instance, we had to pick her and his child up. There was an issue or whatever, and she gets in the front seat. No, that's not right. But putting somebody in a place of honor, which we call shotgun, right? That's very, very important. So how and where a romantic partner places another partner is important. So let's look at the 9, 10, 7, 8, and 5, 6. So high mate value. It is the woman who ends up having high mate value for Keith. She is in the front seat. She cannot be high value and a rebound at the same time. Low mate value. Samantha has low value from beginning to end. The strategy in Keith placing Samantha in the second position suggests that she always had low mate value. So she's abandoned here. Even though she comes to his apartment, she's basically emotionally abandoned and evicted. And it's just essentially confirmed when the new woman, who could be an old woman, is placed in the front seat. That's why I say Samantha could be the one who's actually the rebound. So we looked at 7, 8. Let's look at 5, 6. No mate value. If Samantha is considered Keith's rebound woman, then she also had no mate value. The relationship activities were just distractions. So therefore, she's tossed. And that's clear. I don't understand why asking her to go to the restaurant is necessary if she has no mate value, but that could be just to play games as men often do. So Keith was willing to exit one mateship for another. However, true to rebounding, he did not take the risk until he secured the woman. Once he was able to secure the woman and give her high value, then Keith was able to let go of Samantha emotionally, psychologically, if not physically. If she's in the same car with him, that means he's keeping Samantha at arm's length. So just in case there's an issue with the woman, he can always pull at Samantha. Keith was still wanting to keep Samantha, even if to invite Samantha to his apartment to see the woman and to put Samantha in the back seat. He maintained the contact with Samantha. It is Samantha who is the rebound. So Keith's choice of the woman over Samantha suggests that he chooses the woman because of physical features. Men tend to choose with their eyes before their hearts. And I'm just assuming here, because if Samantha is physically attractive, she would automatically get high mate value. And so why is he not putting her in the front seat? Attractiveness and access to high value mates are indicative of one's own mate value and individual's overall attractiveness as a potential mate on the mating market. So that means that Keith must consider the woman as high mate value. So if he considers her as high mate value, by default he considers himself as high mate value, because he's making a wise decision. If he chose Samantha and tried to marry her, he would think he was making an unwise decision. Based on these views, Keith's choice in a high value mate reflects his personal belief that he is high value. Keith was willing to replace Samantha, but only if the woman would prove to be a better mate fit. So before he could finally choose her to be in the front seat, he had to continue working on the woman. So that means he kept Samantha at arm's length, probably went back and forth with her, probably gone back and forth sexually, as well as trying to pull at her for a relationship, not really revealing the fact that he was already building a relationship with someone else. Abandoning a partner who does not fit one's mate preferences would be counterproductive if that required ultimately settling for a partner who was an even poorer fit. So if Samantha is in the back seat, she's a poorer fit in contrast to the woman who's in the front seat. So it wouldn't have made sense to abandon his efforts with the woman in the front seat. It would have been, he found it more necessary to allocate all of his efforts to sustaining a hold on the woman in the front seat. For Keith, the woman could not prove to be a partner that required more tolerance from him. The goal for Keith was to take his tolerance, direct it towards Samantha, and apply it to a mate he was willing to work with and foster development. The woman is not worth replacing or abandoning. Samantha is. And that's what you basically see with the woman in the front seat and Samantha in the back seat, and Keith actually driving them both. If Keith chose Samantha instead of the woman, he would be in a state of losing. A person who abandoned a partner higher in mate value than themselves would risk having to settle for an alternative mate who is a worse fit to their preferences. Mate preferences for Keith may be based upon the woman's abilities or appeals. The woman might be someone who reflects long-term partner characteristics over Samantha. So there might be an issue with Samantha. She might be ambitious. She might have a masculine frame. She might not be physically attractive, but regardless, she's not in the front seat. The benefits of Keith being with the woman outweigh any potential benefits of being with Samantha. Benefits are relative and subjective, but suffice it to say, there must be more benefits in choosing the woman and more costs associated with choosing Samantha. Both women could be attractive and have great personalities, but it depends on the mate preferences of the person choosing that determines if one woman has higher value than another. The woman has higher value for Keith. His goal becomes to allocate all efforts to mate retention through benefit provisioning. So he's going to give her compliments and gifts, and then he's going to honor her through marriage. We don't see that in the particular rebounding narrative, but if she's in the front seat, that means she's long-term partner potential, definitely leading to marriage. So the most important takeaway from this rebounding narrative is the visual that is implied when Keith places the woman in the front seat of the car. No woman should continue a relationship with Keith, even if in friendship. The strategy of repositioning Samantha is simply disrespectful. So that means Samantha, again, never had any true value. So it didn't matter what she did. She could increase her mate status, her mate value. She could leave from a 5-6, from a 7-8 to a 9-10 because she had a better job, better money, etc. The fact that he put the other woman in the front seat, his mind was already made up about that woman. So it's likely if Samantha is the rebound, it's likely that he was with the woman first, and then they had a breakup, and then he chose Samantha, and then when the woman decided to come back around, he sort of tossed Samantha for the woman, which makes Samantha the rebound. If Keith had announced that the woman was his girlfriend and Samantha was informed about it for a time, then it would make sense for Samantha to take a back seat. Any other option, and Keith is less sympathetic. Lastly, mate preference is key. Someone could be physically attractive, have resources, and be agreeable in many areas, emotionally, psychologically, sexually, and spiritually. However, men oftentimes criticize women of ambition. A man who wants a woman to stay home would be less attracted to a woman who wanted to work. Mate preference still is key. So even if Keith was using Samantha as a rebound, he still has a right to his own mate preference. Even if he's wrong in how he treated Samantha, he still has a right to his mate preference. What I'm basically saying is he shouldn't have played around with Samantha if he didn't have the best intentions. So here is a writing task I want you to think about. I want you to think back on your own past relationships and dating experiences in terms of discovering if you were a rebound. So think about a time when you discovered you were a rebound, or you decided to use someone as a rebound. Create a simple case description of that person, adding visual details, activities, attitudes, and economic and financial status. Determine if the individual has high or low mate value based on the dating values that were discussed in this lecture. Analyze the case study using the strategies in the rebounding analysis. So initially, you can always use the dating rankings. So here's the last scenario, the cheating narrative. So does a commitment to cheating reflect high value? So if you have a partner, high status partner who is married but stepping out and cultivating extra pair affairs and backup mates or et cetera, and you may not necessarily be a high status female partner, does a commitment to cheating, does cheating, infidelity reflect his high value? So here is the cheating narrative. Keisha and Marcus have been engaged for a year. Marcus bought a ring for Keisha, but Keisha hasn't been planning for the wedding. Keisha and Marcus often have disagreements about Marcus cheating with online companions. She has kicked him out multiple times only to take him back. They finally separate, but without announcing a breakup. Marcus rebounds and sleeps with another woman. When the woman asks him if he is involved with anyone, Marcus says no. While with the rebound woman, Marcus cheats on the woman and cheats with Keisha. He also cheats with another ex-partner. Marcus and Keisha carry on their relationship, but Keisha never recommits to developing a long-term relationship. Keisha gets her needs met with Marcus. The rebound woman lies to herself about the relationship and finally ends it with Marcus. Marcus finally marries someone different but continues also with Keisha. So which one has high value? Does Marcus's commitment to cheating reflect high value? Does Keisha's continued relationship, non-relationship with Marcus reflect high value? Does the woman's decision to stay with Marcus and subsequently exit reflect high value? And of the three romantic partners, who is the cheater? So this is a strange partnership between Keisha Marcus and the rebound woman. The creation of a rebound woman is due to the neglect in the current relationship between Keisha and Marcus. Keisha may have emotionally and psychologically disengaged from Marcus because of his cheating. She may have disengaged long before his cheating. After all, she has not begun planning for the wedding. People who want to be married will begin planning early, and that's especially true for women. Women, as soon as we meet a man, we've already planned our wedding dress. We already know what the venue is, right? And so when you find a woman not planning a wedding, that is telling. In an ironic sense, it is the rebound woman who is the cheater in this scenario. There is an established relationship between Keisha and Marcus, even if they are struggling in maintaining their relationship. Marcus seeking another relationship is besides the point. Keisha's struggle to recommit to the relationship is also besides the point. The rebound woman is an outsider in Keisha's and Marcus's relationship. Therefore, she is the cheater. Until the on again, off again relationship between Keisha and Marcus is completed and fully off, any woman or man coming into their relationship would be considered a cheater. Even if one of the partners seeks a rebound, for whatever reason, that rebound is the cheater. So let's look at the rankings. So high mate value versus low mate value. So under high mate, only Marcus has high mate value. Not even Keisha has high mate value for Marcus. Marcus's commitment to cheating is a higher value because it boosts his ego. It continues to sustain the belief that he is of high value, right? The more that Keisha remains with him, whether it's in the relationship or even after he gets married, makes her low value. Because under low mate value, because Marcus is willing to cheat on Keisha with other people and with a rebound woman, every woman has low mate value. Marcus will abandon all women and or partners. All right, we've looked at low mate value. Let's look at no mate value. So any rebound, male or female, has no mate value. The rebound fulfills an immediate need, a gap. The rebound is always tossed, even if kept long-term for use. So even if the rebound woman exited the relationship with Marcus, he still has a claim on her. He could always sneak in and come back and say, I want to work things out, never tell her about the fact that he's married, right? And also still try to sustain something with Keisha. But both Keisha and the rebound woman they have no mate value in the way that Marcus is treating them. He's making them just fulfill a role, sexual role or companionship role. The person that he's married, that he decided to marry, is the one who has higher mate value. But then, of course, if he uses cost-inflicting mate retention behaviors on her, then she might be of low value as well, or no value. Marcus is committed to cheating. He is committed to infidelity. It is a belief system. It is a lifestyle he has perfected. Partners who are committed to a relationship often report positive relationship quality and relationship satisfaction. So Marcus the person that he married is someone that gives him great relationship satisfaction on some level because he married the person. Doesn't mean that when he steps out and commits infidelity, that that he is not happy with the relationship. He could just have a problem as well. Partners are less likely to commit infidelity when they are satisfied with the relationship. So then we have the opposite then, that if he is not satisfied with the woman that he married, then there may be some issues with relationship satisfaction. But again, Marcus could just be a person who is special, who just is still into game playing, who still doesn't really understand what it takes to be a grown adult male, right? Man, rather. So it can go either way. Partners are also less likely to commit infidelity out of fear that they will lose the relationship. A partner in a good relationship may not want to risk the loss because it might produce psychological distress, negative changes in life satisfaction, and impact upon health. So if the woman that he married found out that he was still messing with a rebound woman and his ex-partner in Keisha, then she could force a divorce, which would later have a negative impact on his finances. He will be psychologically distressed. It might affect his health, and it will definitely affect his overall potential for life satisfaction. However, there are partners who are willing to risk infidelity, which leads to relationship dissolution. Pursuit of infidelity is linked to low conscientiousness and low agreeableness, which are two factors of the big five personality traits. So Marcus just might be headed for self-destruction, because he can't leave any of the women alone. So it's going to impact him in multiple areas of his life. In other words, individuals who are hardworking and detail-oriented and are kind and friendly are more likely to be satisfied in their relationships, and so may be less likely to be unfaithful. So if Marcus is going back and forth with all these different women, and possibly more, especially if he's trying to meet online companions, then that speaks to his lack of conscientiousness, that he's not focused, he's not disciplined, and he doesn't have self-control. So then that's going to show up in other areas of his life. So let's look at the two of these big five personality traits. So conscientiousness, I like conscientiousness a lot. They are scored on high versus low. So if you took the big five personality trait test, you might score high in some areas, and then you might score low in others. So with high, you tend to be hardworking, well organized, ambitious, persevering. So if you find Marcus being distracted, somewhere he stopped in his ambition, or he stopped in his perseverance, or he was never well organized, or he's just not a hard worker altogether. Low in conscientiousness, you tend to be negligent, lazy, disorganized, quitting. So somewhere he is a quitter, because if he's not ending one relationship before he gets into another, he's really in a state of quitting. He's in a state of running, because he's not making really sound adult decisions. That if you don't want to be with Keisha, end the relationship. If you don't want to be with the rebound woman, end the relationship, and then take some time for self-reflection, and then you marry someone. But he's lazy somewhere in learning. He's very negligent in terms of the relationships he's in, but he's also very negligent about himself. That it's taxing and tiring on the mind and on the body to bed hop, right? To go from person to person. It affects you mentally, it affects you psychologically, right? And you are disorganized. There's something about that really tells you how important it is that people really be focused in their life, because if you are not focused on your tasks, it shows up in other areas of your life, your personal life for sure. And then your personal can affect your academic and your professional. That's why a lot of these people are found out, because of some sort of sexual affair or something like that. Agreeableness. So high, low. You can be trusting, generous, lenient, good natured. Maybe Marcus at one point in his life was good natured. Maybe he was too trusting. Maybe he was generous. Maybe he was lenient, and then someone took advantage. Because usually if you're hurting somebody, somebody hurt you. Hurting people hurt people, right? So he might have given all he could to one woman years ago, maybe in his 20s or something like that. And she decided to cheat on him, doing wrong, and he was very good to her. And so somehow he decided that he's not going to be good to any more women after that other woman. So then it goes to the low side: ruthless, suspicious, antagonistic, critical. And whatever is going on in the relationship that he has with Keisha, the rebound woman, and now the married wife, the marital partner, he's going to be still a little critical of the relationship and suspicious. He may not be antagonistic or ruthless because he's wanting to keep that partner. After all, he did marry her. And so, and he might use, benefit provisioning to maintain the relationship. So he might have to dig back into his generous side, tap back into his generous side, because the person that he's married to might reflect high value and he don't want to let her go. And so there are times when he might feel like he wants to be ruthless because the anger might still be there from a past relationship, but he'll tap into the good nature. See, not everybody cheats on everybody. There is someone a man will not cheat on. There is someone that a woman, there's some man that a woman will not cheat on. I remember listening to Shallon Lester, I think that's her name, a YouTuber. And she was talking about the triangle between Brad Pitt, Jennifer Aniston, and Angelina Jolie. And she made a very interesting point that I have never let go. I have never let go. That Brad cheated on Jennifer Aniston, but he never cheated on Angelina Jolie. Even though he was married to, Jennifer Aniston first, and even though Angelina Jolie gave him hell with his kids, in custody arrangements, etc., he never cheated on Angelina Jolie. Never. And I don't think she cheated on him either. But I'm basically saying there are some people that men will not cheat on. And then there are some women that men will cheat on. And I feel like men do more of the cheating than women. And I'm a little biased because I'm not a cheater. So I don't know firsthand any woman who has cheated. And any woman that I see in the movies, I say to myself, well, that's, fantasy. That's a movie. But there's something that Marcus is willing to keep this marital partner. So he's going to allocate every effort within him, even if he's still angry about past relationships and wants to employ some ruthlessness and be suspicious and be antagonistic and critical. He will tap into his benefit provisioning, mate retention, behavior options before he lets this partner go. But with Keisha and with the rebound woman, he had no problems being having low conscientiousness or low agreeableness. So initial attraction to a partner is often conscientious and agreeable, because as soon as we meet the person, we automatically give them an A. It's like the teacher who says you have an A in this class, just automatic. Now it's up to you to maintain that A. So the person already has a very high mate value status automatically, because otherwise, why would the high value partner, male partner, just choose a low value partner? He wouldn't, right? So automatically they tend to be very conscientious and agreeable. However, attraction could wane if one partner has reduced his or her quality. So if you go out and cheat, you have reduced your mate value. Mate value is assessed by the partner's physical attractiveness in comparison to others on the mating market, access and provision of resources, and fulfillment of other mate preferences. So if sexual variety is a mate preference for the male and you stop doing that after he marries you, that's going to cause him to think, well, that's going to cause him to be suspicious because he assumed that you will continue what you were doing prior to marriage. And so now the mate preference has changed, therefore your mate value is going to change. Provision of resources could change as well because he might be upset that you are not performing in the way that he would like you to perform. And you might still have high physical attractiveness, right? Because, you know, he did choose a dime piece or 9 or 10. But that mate preference, if there was something with the mate preference, maybe that you need to keep yourself up like a trophy wife, that when wealthy men marry trophy wives, they want them to maintain that look wherever they go, even in the house if there's no one in the house, right? So mate preference will predict mate retention. Provided a partner maintains his or her overall desirability, it is less likely that the partner will be replaced. It is also less likely that the partner will cultivate a backup mate. However, as the research suggests, even a partner experiencing high relationship satisfaction will often cultivate a backup mate. So I figured that these are people who were friends with your man years prior and maybe still friends, because I don't think you just automatically go out and find and cultivate a backup mate. There's always some sort of adjacency that they always know the person or know of the person or something like that. You always have somebody in mind when you are thinking about cultivating a backup mate. The backup mate hypothesis contends that even people experiencing high relationship satisfaction would have benefited from cultivating potential replacement mates. This means that partners do not always need a reason to commit infidelity. If infidelity works, then partners will pursue it as a form of mate insurance. So there's, I guess, what the literature is suggesting, there's never any certainty in any relationship formation. Even if the person is high value, both partners could be high value. One of the partners or both partners could still decide or think about or consider cultivating a potential replacement mate. They could, and they might do that as a form of mate insurance to make sure that they are not alone. Because you do have some people who cannot stand to be alone. I'm not one of those people. I'm a loner. So it's nothing for me to be in a house by myself. I wouldn't die if I didn't have anybody. And I don't really experience loneliness. I was socialized early in my childhood to be, kind of isolated, to be a loner. So it really doesn't hurt me. I actually prefer it. There may come a time when I might want to go out or something like that and be among people. That's fine too. But I would be less likely the type of person, if I actually did get married, to commit infidelity. I just can't have all that drama. It's just too much drama. I mean, I have to think about cultivating a potential replacement mate if my mate is not doing well or acting right or something like that. And then I have to have sex with that person as a form of mate insurance, so that if my husband doesn't act right, I can have somebody over here on the side. I just can't live my life like that. I don't understand why people would want to live like that. So that would not be an option for me. If and when a mate switch is warranted, then the backup mate provides an opportunity to continue mating without much investment. So basically, what they're basically suggesting here, that if you cultivate the backup mate, you won't have all the costs associated with trying to find another mate, trying to invest in another mate, all the psychological taxing that comes with getting to know somebody and things like that. You would have already gone through the process of cultivating a backup mate. So when one relationship ends, you just step into the next one. The need to retain an alternative mate will find in the partner the allocation of effort through benefit provisioning or cost inflicting mate retention behavior. Even when the partner commits to infidelity and chooses a backup mate, he or she will still have some preference for remaining in a relationship versus exiting another relationship and pursuing another mate switch opportunity so soon after the first. So even the ones who call themselves trying to think about cultivating a backup mate, there is always preference to staying in the existing relationship. That's why I say, why commit the infidelity? It just doesn't make any sense. If you're already going to stay with your current partner, why play all these games and step out and do the hokey pokey, and turn yourself around and then have sex and then come right back into the relationship? It's just goofy. It's just dumb. One aspect of this discussion on cheating did not address the need for sexual variety. The partner who commits to infidelity likely needs sexual variety, which makes any party replaceable. Sexual boredom with the current partner has been linked to sexual infidelity. Boredom in the psychology literature is defined as a mismatch between desire and reality. So that's what I think with some people. They are just living in some kind of fantasy land. It's like they all want to porn the relationship. They all want to, on some level, have the type of sex you might see in a porn film. That's not realistic. No woman can keep up that kind of stamina for a long time. You might put a stripper pole in the bedroom and you do something right, or you might use some sex toys, things like that. But people work. They have to take care of kids. They got to clean. They got to cook. They got to do all these different things. And you want them to also swing off the pole every night. But then if you don't, the man will go to the strip club and see a woman strip and swing off the pole every night. So it's just ridiculous. I think on some level, as an adult, you're going to have to curb your thirst. No, you may not want a predictable partner all the time, but you're going to have to figure out a way to live life without all of these little flashes and dangling and distractions as well. Because sexual boredom is typically a male attribute, most men have reached their sexual satiation with one partner and hold contempt for sexual familiarity. So they might be tired with missionary style and then getting on your knees style, doing it from the back and doing all other things, and they just need something else that's just going to keep their attention. Sexual boredom is linked to personality traits. Sex requires conscientiousness and agreeableness. One of those things about sexual variety, if you have a partner who was willing to commit to oral sex prior to marriage, but then they changed their mind after you married them, that is going to pose as a problem. I remember my stepfather saying, whatever you start off doing in the beginning, you're going to have to keep up. So you can't get your partner all hyped up for certain sexual, variety acts and then change your mind once you get into the marriage, once he puts the ring on your finger and then you marry at the courthouse. So do what you can do. And then you can always, in relationship, develop more. When both personality traits are absent in the romantic relationship, one or more partners are likely to pursue an alternative who is complementary to their mate preferences. So this is when you find the willingness in an extra pair mate to come in and commit to oral sex, or to come in and commit to anal sex, or whatever sexual variety. If you started out doing that in the beginning and you don't want to do it in the end, when you're married, he's going to now, or she's going to now seek out that mate preference. So here's a writing task. Journal your thoughts. Challenge the notion that a male partner of a core relationship who seeks a rebound woman is not considered the cheater. If a male partner dips in and out of a relationship with the marital or long-term partner and pursues a short-term strategy with a rebound woman, then why shouldn't the male partner be held accountable for cheating? Given the notion that Keisha refused to plan the wedding, if she chooses to seek a rebound, would she be a cheater? So here's a takeaway. Is high value relative to mate preferences? So high value is relative to mate preferences. Physical attractiveness is always a mating preference. Both men and women will choose a mate based upon how he or she looks. People are vain. They don't want to walk around with someone with low attractiveness. I don't remember basing my decisions on that, but I've also haven't dated a lot. So I just remember having a date maybe in high school and maybe one or two times and as an adult. I'm 46 now, but I haven't really dated because I got a clue about that early, that if you date, you run the risk of having too many sexual partners, and I didn't want that. Like I said, if you are dating 10 people, 15 people a year, and you're sleeping with 3 to 5 or 5 to 8 of them a year, and then you do that for 5 years before you decide to marry, that's a lot. That's a heavy body count, and I just didn't want that. Benefit provisioning is important to women partners. So a man who has material resources reflects higher value than a man who does not or who cannot provide. A woman will continue to monitor her partner's mate value and will use information to invest or divest from the relationship. So high value is relative to mate preferences. A partner's high value will determine mate switching strategy. So if a woman ascends in status but her partner does not, it is likely that she will exit the mateship and pursue a partner who is available or a partner who became available. So, this reminds me of, I just put this here today, the Oscar curse. You've always heard that when one partner of a relationship or marriage receives an Oscar, something about that person receiving the Oscar affects the relationship, and it always ends up in divorce. And this always reminds me of the marriage between Reese Witherspoon and Ryan Felipe. They are not married now, but when they were married and she played June Carter Cash and Walk the Line, I think Walk the Line is the name of the film, and she won an Oscar for it, somehow their relationship took a hit and they divorced immediately afterwards. Now, I don't know if there was any other issue going on with them. She did speak in an interview one time before that there was an abusive relationship that she had with an ex, and she had to exit that relationship. And I don't know if it has anything to do with him. But the Oscar curse is one of those things that has contributed to people mate switching. That when one partner receives an Oscar, it's like the other partner, and they're both actors, it's like the other partner is affected negatively, and something about it, they just end up, divorcing, exiting the relationship for good. A male partner will mate switch on a female partner with a restricted socio-sexual orientation. So such partners often are non-committal about having sex. Male partners who mate switch will often choose a partner who requires less time before having sex. These are partners with an unrestricted socio-sexual orientation. So if the man wants to have sex, he's just not going to choose a woman who doesn't want to have sex immediately. I mean, there might be some times when you say we're going to have sex in 6 months, or maybe by the third date, or something like that, or the third month. But if the partner is unwilling to have sex during the dating phases of their relationship, he is likely to mate switch, he or she. High value partners will abandon a low value partner based upon change in mate preference, change in investment desire, change in attraction, and change in overall mate retention goals. Men who often rate women on the scale of attractive and not attractive, which makes it easier to replace a current mate if the partner loses mate value. Loss of mate value is the ultimate catalyst that pushes a romantic partner to commit to infidelity. Mate value is relative and subjective. You can still be beautiful, but not fulfill their mate preference. And if mate preference is tied to mate value and you are not fulfilling mate preferences, it might affect your mate value, which would suggest that you have lost mate value. So there may come a time for a decision to exit. How a romantic partner sees you is important, but it is also important how you see yourself. So attitudes and belief systems change with the seasons. Partners who are willing to treat you like an option deserve no further respect. This means that if they cheat on you or disrespect you in other relational ways, then your value begins at 7-8. Once a partner perceives you as a 7-8, it is my belief that there is no changing their minds. Even if you change your value by rising in status, you will always be a 7-8. You could be a person who has increased in value so much to the point that you've made it to millionaire status or something like that. But if they still perceive you as a 7-8, they're going to hang out with you long enough while they are cultivating a backup mate, divorce you, get alimony, use your money to take care of the 9 or 10. And then, that's just hurtful all around. Keep this in mind before you commit fully to your relational partner. You might need to make a decision to exit. All right, so hopefully you were able to gain insight from this video discussion. Please like, subscribe, and visit. So please like the video, hit the notification bell for more discussions. I am re-uploading all of my audios, so I needed to make some changes to them. You can visit my website for more content at reginayfavors.com. If you want to send me an email, you can send an email reginayfavors@yahoo.com. Please also purchase the book. It's going to come out in spring 2021. So I had to make changes to my book to update it, and I also updated the title. So the original title was Bait, Hook, and Switch: Confessions of a Rebound Girl, and I have updated the title to Toxic Encounters: Why People Pursue Rebound Relationships. So right now I'm still basically editing it, and I want to make it available in spring 2021. So thank you very much for visiting my channel, and I am Regina Y. Favors. Have a great day.